Hi, my name is Tim, and I want to talk to you about routine car maintenance. I know a lot of you buy cars, but you're not really sure what to do to take care of them, to make sure that they give you the life you need and give you the service that you need in order to take care of yourself and your family. So I'm going to assume you know very little. Some of this may be too elementary for some of you, but others maybe not. And so I want to be sure I don't take any chances with not giving you the information you need. So almost everything I'm going to show you is going to be under the hood of the car. So to start off, it's getting the hood open. And so in every car, inside the driver's side, near the floor, is usually some type of latch that has a hood emblem on it. And you pull that latch. And you can see right there it shows a little car. Then you go around to the front of the car, and there's always a second catch. If you notice, the hood will not open. That is a safety feature that makes sure that the hood does not fly open if the interior latch is pulled. So there's always a second catch. Usually it's right in the center, and you lift the hood up. Now this hood will not stay open because it does not have springs. So there's usually a rod like this, or there's a rod that will come down from the hood that you put up and hold the hood open to start checking things out. So I am not going to talk to you about filling the car with gas because that is something probably all of you already know. But I want to compare the fluids in the car to essentially the human body. So the gas that you put in the tank that the car uses to run is really like an energy drink. It gives you the engine the power that it needs to be able to run. So the first fluid I'm going to talk about is the oil. Now the oil is essentially like the bloodstream. It circulates through everything. It gives it the nutrients, everything it needs to be able to stay running. And the oil is always the easiest thing to find on the engine. So if you come over here, you can see there's a orange tab at the top of the engine. And usually there'll be some kind of symbol on top of it that will look like an oil can or something like that. The engine must be off when you check the engine or the oil to make sure the car's off and actually has sat for a few minutes to let all the oil drain into the pan. And what you do is you pull it out. It's a long stick, and you always have to wipe it off to check it. You always take it out, and so use a paper towel, anything, rag, whatever you have, and then you put it back in the hole. Make sure it seats all the way down flat the proper way, and then pull it out. And then, if you look carefully, the dark oil is shown right here and where the oil level is in the engine. Now I'm going to wipe this off because I want to show you that if you notice on this stick, there's two holes. The upper one it's full, the lower one is a quart low. You never want your engine to get more than a quart low. So usually what I always suggest is that you at least check your oil every second or third time you stop for gas. While the car's filling up, you lift the hood, you do a quick check and make sure that the engine does not need any oil. This car, the engine had plenty of oil, so I don't need to add it. But I do want to show you that if you have to add a quart of oil, a quart looks just like this. You know, you can buy it in at the gas station in the store there. They'll always have some oil, or you can go to an auto parts place. And there's always a screw top on the top of the engine, and usually, as in this case, it'll actually identify the weight of the oil needed. This is 5W20. And what you do is you just take your rag again, unscrew it, take the top off the oil, and pour it right into that hole. And that will give you 1 full quart of oil to go in. Always make sure you put this top back on. You don't want any other type of dirt or anything getting into that hole. Okay, the second most important oil or fluid in the car is brake fluid. Brake fluid is necessary for the brakes to be able to function on your car and stop the car when you push on the brake pedal. And every vehicle has a brake fluid reservoir. And most of the time, it's located right in front of the driver's side of the car, because when you press the brake pedal, it actually pushes the fluid in this reservoir. And same thing, it has a top on it, very easy to turn and take off. And the fluid, you can see it right in there in terms of the amount of fluid. Now, there is no stick or anything to measure this, how much is needed. But what there is typically, always on the side, there will be some kind of indicator that says max and min in terms of the level. All I do is make sure that it's close to the top, it's filled up with the fluid. Now, this takes a special type of fluid. Again, you can buy it but it shows here, DOT3 brake fluid is what you want to use. They sell it in smaller cans than this, but you should, again, look at that. It just takes a quick glance. Make sure you have brake fluid. If your brake fluid goes low, you need to fill it and watch it to be sure there's no leak. The third fluid I want to discuss with you is power steering fluid. Now, not every car has power steering, but most of the more modern cars, the ones really since 2000 on, pretty much all have power steering. And the power steering fluid is usually found on the passenger side towards the front of the engine. And just like the brakes, it's a reservoir. And in this case, it does have a dipstick. You can see this red top. When you pull it out, this one does not have a dipstick. It actually is just a cap. So you have to go and look at the side of the thing. And again, there's lines on the side that'll show max and min. Now, this fluid is again different. And I really encourage that if the fluid is low, you use a fluid like this. It says power steering fluid with stop leak. The stop leak helps to lubricate basically the seals in the power steering to prevent leaks. Right. The fourth fluid I'm going to show you, which is not on every car again, because if you have a manual transmission, a stick shift, it will not have automatic transmission fluid. But this car does. And this one is usually a little bit harder to find. It's most often a dipstick that is near the battery, towards the back of the engine. And kind of like the oil, it has a long rod on it that, again, has an indicator with two holes that shows liquid level. And this one actually needs to be tested with the engine running. So you have to have it in park, engine running, and do the same thing where you take out the dipstick, wipe it off, and then you put it back in, make sure it seats all the way down, pull it out, and check the fluid. And this one, it shows low right now. That's because the engine is not running. If it was running, it would be fine because I've checked this fluid. And that is a different type of fluid. You cannot put oil in the transmission that you use in the engine, and you can never put transmission fluid into the engine because that'll destroy your engine. So just be very careful to use the right type of fluid for the right situation. Just like having a good pair of shoes keeps your balance, helps you walk better, takes care of your back. The same is true with the tires on the car. They're like the shoes for the car. And what you need to look at, and it's best if you turn the wheel all the way, is look at the tread wear. So in this case, you can see ribs all across the tire. Sometimes you'll see a tire where the one side will be completely bald and the other is okay. That's a problem. That's an alignment issue and is not safe both for driving as well as steering. The other thing I want to show you is these little marks right here in between the treads. Those are called wear bars. If your tires wear down to the point where those are actually making contact with the road, you will not pass inspection. So that is just a quick check. If any of the tire is down to the wear bar, and you go to have your car inspected, the tires will fail. So the next thing you want to really watch on your tires is the amount of air in them. And so some cars actually have an indicator light on the dashboard that if tires are low, it'll actually show a yellow light that looks like a flat tire. But that's not too many cars. In this case, most of the times if you walk around the car, like again, if you stop for gas, just walk around and look at the tires, and you can see if one looks low because it'll actually kind of look flat in this area. The other way is to use a tire gauge. And this is a simple tire gauge you can buy at the shop. And what happens is this extends to show the pounds pressure. So right here it's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds. Ideally, you want the air to be about 32 to 35 pounds of pressure. So how do you check it? What you do, every tire has a valve, and you have to typically take the cap off the valve because that's how you put air in if you need more air. You take this gauge, you put it over the end of it, and you push hard. And so here it came out. So in this case, the pressure in the tire is actually only 28 pounds. So I need to put air in these tires. It's a good thing I use this to check because they should be about 32 pounds. So I will go and check all 4 of the tires. This is my daughter's car. It hasn't been driven in a while. And make sure it's filled up. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about buying a car. So this car right here is a 2003 Honda Civic. Has over 230,000 miles on it. And it's been very reliable. It does have an oil leak that is not too bad, and also power steering. So this is a car that I check regularly to add the fluid to it. But as long as I keep the fluid in there, this car is going to run forever. And I think that's the kind of reliable car all of you should look for. So what do you do when you see a car that you're interested in? My suggestion is the first thing is you always get the vehicle identification number, also known as the VIN number. And there's 2 places you can get that on the car. And I'm going to show you one that's usually the easiest to see right away. Come up here. It's right on the windshield, lower corner of the windshield on the driver's side. That's one. And then the second is going to be inside the door right here on usually a panel that's given right there. That is the most important piece of information because that can get you the history of this car. So for example, if this car was in an accident because it's old, 2003, more than likely, even a small accident, they are going to total the car because it's not worth fixing. Well, people will take that car, they will buy it in an auction, and they'll do what's called a salvage title on it, which means the car was totaled, but they will repair it and have a different type of title on the car. You always want to make sure that you are aware that you may be buying a salvage title car like that, because they could have stripped the car down and rebuilt it and you have no idea what condition it is. So how do you find out that information? Carfax. You hear on the commercials on TV, show me the Carfax. And it is the greatest way to find out the information, whether the title is good, how many previous owners, what states it was in, what type of maintenance was done on it, any type of accidents, things like that. And that is just so important. And you can get it online. You go online, you put in the vehicle identification number, and it does cost money. It's typically around $45, $50, but you know what? If you're going to spend a couple of $1,000s, why not spend the $50 to make sure it's a good car? Fluid that is in the engine compartment that is important but not as important as the other ones is windshield washer fluid. You know, when you're driving down the road and you get mud or dirt on your windshield that gets splashed up there, or even in a rain when it first starts, you want to make sure your windshield wipers are cleaning the window properly. So there's always a container like this that has a plastic lid. Usually it is towards the passenger side of the car, and it's just a lid that you lift up. This is just a thing that shows again how much is in there. And you can just put straight water in there, it can really be better having water than nothing. But I typically like to use a windshield washer fluid that you buy at the store. And again, it just comes in a plastic container that you can pour in there. And a lot of times it has a soap that helps with removing bugs and other types of issues that you have on the windshield. Another light that shows up on the dashboard you need to be very careful with, especially when buying a car, but even if you're going down the road. And that is a light that looks like an engine on it, or it says check engine, and the light is either going to be yellow or red. If it's red, stop immediately. Get off the side of the road, because red means you're about to do major damage to the engine on the car. If it's yellow, you can continue driving until you can have it checked. And there's a lot of reasons that that light can come on. Different sensors, different things that indicate a problem. And there's a code reader that if you go to AutoZone or O'Reilly Auto Parts, a tech there will actually come out and read the code for free to let you know what the problem is. So you don't even have to pay. You can just go to them and then they may suggest what you need. The biggest issue is if you're buying a car, you want to make sure to find out if their check engine light is on. Now here's the bad part about it. That somebody selling a car, all they have to do is disconnect the battery and all the check engine codes clear. And it usually takes anywhere from 10 to 20 miles for those codes to come back on. So it's something that you got to watch out for. Take the car for a test drive. Make sure you get enough mileage on it or take a look at the battery and see if it looks like the battery terminals have been taken off to clear a check engine light. And I will give you an example. There's one of the moms that wanted to buy a car, and she asked me to come look at it because the check engine light was on and wanted to know how serious it was. Well, when I went and looked at that car, it had 6 different codes, including 2 of them that were for the catalytic converter, which is the major, it's over $1,000 part, that type of stuff. And so I told her, I said, if you buy this car, you're going to be spending a lot of money to repair it. So you really have to be diligent in making sure that there aren't any check engine codes, because it won't pass inspection with that light on, and it indicates problems that you need to have. Something that I want to make you aware of, because I hear it a lot of times in cars, and that's when you first start the car up, you will hear a loud squealing noise coming from under the engine compartment, and then as you drive or go, that squealing noise goes away. Well, that squealing is typically from this belt right here. It's called a serpentine belt that actually drives the alternator for the battery charging system, the power steering, the air conditioning, all off of this one belt. And as this belt wears, what happens, it starts to slip on the pulleys and make that noise. Or one of those things that it's riding around, the bearings are going bad. So if you hear squealing like that, the first step is to get that belt replaced. Don't wait until it breaks, because if it breaks, your car won't run. You will be stuck on the side of the road. So you want to go ahead, get somebody to look at it, make sure that the belt tension is correct, make sure the belt isn't worn, and then look for any other type of problems. But that one belt drives everything on the engine, and if it breaks, you're stuck.